product without the bells and whistles which it is keeping for a premium customer. The product is called Mount Wilson. It's open sourced, the whole source code is available outside. So as an example, we are using that Intel's Mount Wilson technology to prove it to you that the hypervisor and the BIOS is trusted. Now if I go back to my previous slide, for all other blades we have similar technologies between McAfee and Intel. I am not going into the details of each of them because that would probably sound more like an advertisement for McAfee, which is not what the intention was. So the idea is, take a unique piece of technology for each component, use that component to prove it in a non-repeatable manner that the component is trusted, and do it across the stack for your entire data center. So right now, there is no solution in the industry which takes into account everything from your applications to your network, OS, VMM, hypervisor, and then gives you a consolidated trust score for your cloud. So that helps you in your compliance as well as you proving to your customers that your cloud is trustworthy.
Any standards in this different dates you have, like you said, the policies and so many other things are input, right, and hence the trust score is something, right?
Correct.
So for those definition of those policies and those kind of things, to be standards established, or is it?
Yes. So that's actually yes and no. So that's again specific to each of the components. Let's take OS attestation, right? For instance, there are very well defined government regulatory standards on PCI for OS attestation. For instance, if you are running a web server and you are going to meet your Sarbanes-Oxley, it says your password should be rotated, it should be of this much strength, it should have a firewall, it should have an AV running on it, and a bunch of things, right? So again, since I've mentioned them, so McAfee has this product called McAfee Risk Analyzer, MRA, right? So that actually takes in input from all these regulatory standards which are applicable for the OS and measures what you are doing in the OS. So what we are doing in this trust attestation service is we are not reinventing the wheel for each of the blades. We are taking existing products and technologies between McAfee and Intel and a bunch of our vendors. It's not like just McAfee and Intel. For example, VMM attestation, there's a company called HiTrust which does a very good job of VMware's configuration management. So we are partnering with them to provide VMM attestation. So to answer your question, the compliance feeds are per blade, and in some cases they are relevant, in some cases they are still in a nascent stage which they have not yet been incorporated into the standard.
And the trust score, do we have any levels? Okay, I'm assuming that it's going to be an absolute score, right? So is it something in a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the absolute stuff? So is there any levels? Level 1 is, okay, at least for these kind of businesses, this level should be complied with, and or minimum trust score should be around this level. For example, for a financial or banking enterprise, the trust score should be almost close to 9.99 or something like that. Do we have any such?
So again, the answer is, there are two different answers for this. In the initial version which we are looking at, what we are doing is we are giving a trust score and we are providing interface for the end users to define what is the trust score that they expect. So if you are running a banking application, you can set a trust score threshold of 95, okay? And you can say 95 with a variance of 5% or something like that. But going forward, the idea is to get this standardized, and Intel and McAfee are working with a bunch of companies. Coalfire is one which I mentioned, on coming up with a standardized trust score for a cloud. But that's an exercise which is a completely different ball game. It's not as simple as creating a product and delivering it into the customer. So that probably will take its own time.
And is it score for each individual blade or accumulated score across the blades?
So you would get both. So you would get individual blades level scores and you would get an overall score. And while forming the overall score, we are providing mechanisms where you can say firmware is important to me, but VMM is not important to me. So you can customize, there's a weighted average, weightage which we can, and you can have multiple templates. So you can have one template for your banking workloads, one for your gaming workloads which you don't want security. Yeah, so that's all I had. If there are any more questions.
Who are the buyers of this product? Is it OEM companies or service providers?
So, as right now the product is not ready. It's more of a concept. What we are right now doing is we are running a joint development program with 5 out of them, 3 are service providers and 2 are private enterprises. So the 2 private enterprises are looking at it more from a compliance angle, and the service providers are looking at it as a differentiator between them and the other service providers, infrastructure providers. So the product probably hopefully will hit the market somewhere in Q3 this year. It's still under development.
How will service providers use this?
Sorry?
How will service providers use this?
Service providers, the 3 service providers we are working with are looking at it as a way to differentiate themselves with respect to others. So they are going to have a different pricing model based on the security they provide. Okay. And they are going to incorporate this into their management console so that when the customers log into their console, they see which security level they are. So these are all new players who are trying to play a catch-up against the big ones like Terramark and AWS. Right now, obviously, AWS is not even interested in talking to us. Someday we'll get there. That's all I have.
Sorry, Bana.
Thank you.
Nazir.
So lunch is served in that bank.